it's really showing no sign of coming down. IT companies are hiring in big numbers, startups are hiring in big numbers, multinational companies are hiring in big numbers. So if you can all take us through the noticeable hiring trends that you're seeing at this point, perhaps Ritu can start, and the others can chime in. Ritu?
Thank you so very much for having me in the show. I mean, there's a lot happening, so I don't know whether I'll be able to summarize it, but let me give it a shot. So I think economies are rivers, not ponds. The hotspots for job creation keep changing with trade, technology, taste, and much else, and I'm sure it's obvious to all of us. So as per the latest TUR report, which we came out with, the skills to digitize and automate processes have generated a extremely high demand for professionals with specialized skills such as digital adoption, data analysis, AI know-how, and automation plus delivery agents. Also, if you leave aside on one side the technology, of course, essential services has led to the boom of demand for a lot of warehousing managers, supply chain specialists, and so on and so forth. In the digital banking domain, the major skills in demand are on blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, robotic process automation, financial data analysis, and of course, cybersecurity. And the interesting part is that most organizations claim and believe that at this point of time, the demand pretty much outnumbers the available supply pool. And I feel that while it's a short-term challenge, but it's a huge opportunity for today's youth to kind of sharpen their skills, especially for these areas. Also, we do a jobs and salary primer survey, which is an annual thing, and it actually shows that the demand for super specialized critical job roles over the last 12 months, in spite of the pandemic, has actually gone up. It's also attracting 11% salary increments or more as compared with market averages, which range anywhere between 1.73% during the pandemic, which is the minimum, to about 14%. Super specialized job profiles like banking trainers, banking, financial services, and insurance has exhibited a growth of 11.32 salary increments. Compliance officers has exhibited about 11%. Software test specialist in IT and knowledge services, almost close to 11%. In banking and financial services, we have seen that highly technical, knowledge-based roles are generating more than 10%. In healthcare and pharmaceutical sectors, across job roles, there has been significant, again, 10% plus increments. So I think overall, if you were to call out, I would say that IT is one job area where across profiles, I'm not going to the details. If we have time, I can get into the details. There has been significant improvement in wages, and I'm sure many of you out there are already experiencing it. I'm reading a lot of tweets which are actually complaining about the high dropout rates these days in technology, and also sales profiles. Sales profiles are back in demand because there is a revival which is being expected. So there is a lot going on. Honestly, this is not gonna end my rant so soon. So over to you.
Right. In fact, we did a story, just a couple of weeks ago on how only 1 in 4 offers are getting accepted. I think Sriram will be able to tell us a little about that later on the show, because he's seeing this happening every day in his work. But Krishna, if you can take us through the trends that you're seeing. Ritu mentioned a lot of different roles, interesting specialized roles, and the hikes. But what trends are you witnessing?
Sure. So thanks for having me here. I think I agree to everything that Ritu said, and I think she covered a lot of data and talked about a lot of roles and domain. But I'll share with you my perspective on why this is happening. See, before the pandemic also, there was in general very high demand for technology talent, or more broadly, digital talent, people who work in data, technology, cyber, and areas that help people build online businesses. What has happened during the pandemic, that businesses which were completely online, they started doing very well because uh, nothing got impacted for them, right? And businesses which were not online, or businesses which were not digital, they also started focusing with a lot of renewed energy on how soon they can become online, how soon they can start offering their product and services online. So net the result is that there are digital businesses which are growing because their business never got impacted. There are businesses which are not online, which are not digital. They started putting a lot of effort in making sure that they get online. They start becoming digital businesses. So they are also hiring in a big way those kind of talent. And then there are a lot of new age tech startup all across the world who have started receiving a lot of venture capital money, a lot of private equity money to build new product and services for this digital native audience. So net, there is a demand all across the sector. There are like established businesses going more and more digital. They are hiring. There are digital businesses which are growing faster than ever before. They are hiring. There are a lot of new startups that are getting funded, and they also are primarily technology startups, so they are also hiring. So we see across the spectrum demand for digital talent. I completely agree. We have first-hand experience to like really reconfirm this data that you just shared, that 1 in 4 only are joining when it given an offer. Maybe I will say that it has become even more worse. Maybe 1 in 5 or 6 are hiring if you offer, like if you roll out a job offer for anyone working in this new age technologies. And that is also, we also see that pattern in our own in our own training programs. The amount of interest that we have received in the last 2 years is like phenomenal. I think the biggest challenge is not whether people are coming and buying and taking our training programs or not. The challenge is that how do we ensure that with so much of renewed demand, we continue to offer a certain level of quality and ensure that learners are getting what they expected us when they signed up for our program. So I think this is the best time to work in digital industry overall, and I don't see it's going down in the near future.
Wow, we'll come back to what skills you really need to work in the digital industry. As you said, there's no better time to work in the digital industry, and we really look at it with a lot of shock and awe, the kind of salary hikes that people are getting. But Prateek, you have a very interesting model at Masai School. Basically, anyone who wants to become a software developer can come there, spend 7 months, and then they pay you only after they get a job. So tell us about the startups, the scene there, because you supply talent to a lot of startups. So what's really happening there? What trends are you seeing?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Sandra, for having me over here. And I was listening to Ritu and Krishna, and I totally agree. I think currently, as I keep on saying that coding is going to become the second language and in the world. And at this point of time, if you'll see the demand for great tech talent, as well as if you'll call it broadly from a digital talent perspective, I think it's immense. And I think this is the best decade to be a software developer, or having someone who is going to contribute into the digital like the entire revolution which is happening around us. And if you'll see, the biggest reason why it is happening is because the internet is the biggest platform across the world. And at the same point of time, if you'll see, in India specifically, around 600 million people who are there on, like, which was our internet population earlier. Now it will be going towards close to 950 million, and like more and more people are coming over here, and there are going to be multiple solutions which are getting built up around startup ecosystem. And that is why, if you'll see right now, the demand is at an all-time high. We keep on seeing a different kind of trend in Masai School, where the batch is graduating, and suddenly you have, in 1 week or 2 weeks, you are getting so many companies who want to basically absorb talent, that after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you don't have much talent available. And that's going to stay. That is what my that is how I think about it. Because everyone, like, be it, like, apart from few sectors in Indian startup ecosystem, all the sectors benefited a lot, and they have suddenly the entire like whatever we were expecting to happen after 3 4 5 years is has been accelerated due to COVID pandemic. And because of that, I think like there's a lot of automation which is going to happen now. There's a lot of work around tech talent, which is like, there's a lot of expectations, as well as at the same point of time, everyone wants to basically absorb the right kind of people in the team, because they want to go for Bharat, and they want to go deeper into Indian Indian subcontinent and wanted to basically cater to that demand. So this is the best time to be into tech, is what I believe, and this is something which I keep on telling it to all our students, that you are in golden era right now. So yeah.
Yeah, even we keep asking each other in the newsroom how to go from journalism to software development. But we are already getting a flurry of audience questions. So, Sriram, if you can take this, since you deal with IT companies, are qualified software engineers the only ones being hired, or can anyone with coding skills expect to be picked up by software companies?
And you needed an engineering degree to be a successful software engineer. In fact, in the US, a lot of product companies, large product companies, have dropped the need to have a degree uh, to join them. As long as you have the interest, the aptitude, and the inclination to code, and you're good at it, you have a job. In fact, even here, we see companies, product companies, setting up their own universities, hiring from high school. If you're interested to get into programming, that is passion for a few people. So there's absolutely no uh, entry barrier anymore. There are companies that are willing to take the bet if you're good. So that's the change that has happened in the last couple of years.
But is this true of the big 4 or 5 IT companies as well? Your TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL. Will they take people without an engineering degree who have the coding skills or the full stack skills? Because they've had a very campus kind of hiring model, at least for
Sure.
freshers. So has that changed?
See, large IT services consulting firms uh, still have a set of norms, a minimum set of norms that you need to fulfill to be eligible. Uh, but I'd say the trend is changing a little bit, because there was a requirement for only engineers to come in and do programming. Now that has diversified into arts and science. So people are okay. In fact, they're embracing arts and science in a very, very big way. And each of these companies have their own program to attract talent from the arts and people with arts and science and humanities background that are interested in programming to take a shot at a career in tech.
Right. Ritu, if you can take this audience question. This is from Mahesh Gogula. He's asking us, how can those in operations take advantage of the boom?
Okay, interesting. Of course, operations is a very wide spectrum. Now, it all depends upon which operations we are talking about. But I think if somebody has a bent of mind where they like or enjoy job roles which need a lot of detailing, managing processes, improving processes, I think this is a great time. And I think the sectors one should be looking at, of course, would be logistics, e-commerce, high-end knowledge, knowledge providers or outsourcing companies, which are specializing out of India and offering their services to clients all over the world. I think for all of these sectors, there is always a perennial need for extremely seasoned operations resources. However, I think it's implicit that one of the demands, which is quite which is apparent now, and it's something that everyone who's focusing on that area should be working on, is the eye for, or the ability to think about managing processes better through automation. So which means that even in case of people who are looking at operation as a job role, your ability to quickly digitize, automate, and templatize the work or the workflows is going to be very important, because the entire world is veering towards optimization, higher productivity. So if one is interested in operation, I would at this point of time recommend e-commerce, logistics, KPOs, even IT services companies.
Right. I'm sorry, we're just getting a lot of questions. So, Krishna, if you can take this, can an MBA grad in operations and marketing join IT as a business analyst? What are the important skills required? I think you're on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to make this statement that this boom is not only in tech. I think that's a narrow view of looking at the current boom that we are experiencing. The boom is in overall digital space, and there's
Hmm.
not even a single industry or a single role that has not got impacted by digital. So any area that you work in, any industry that you work in, any role that you work in, there is a way to learn these digital skills and become quite valuable. So like I was the previous questions on operations. There's a lot of interesting operations role that all kind of digital companies have, and there's a great career there. There's a lot of growth there. And on this particular answer, that can an MBA grad in operations and marketing can join IT as a business analyst? Definitely. See, what do IT companies do, right? They as a business analyst, you analyze a certain business or a certain industry, and as an IT professional, we provide solution to that particular business, right? So if you have a background in operations and marketing, it will help you understand that particular industry. But be in whatever role today, like being as a business analyst or a developer or any role, I think understanding of data is super important. If you understand what data can do, how to derive insight from the data, that has become kind of a default requirement from all kinds of roles that we have in industry today. So the short answer to your question is yes, you can definitely.
Okay. Prateek, let me come to you. In terms of the skills that startups, unicorns are looking for, the roles they are looking for, can you give us a brief overview and which roles are paying the most?
Got it. So, since we are only handling the entire software development piece, as well as at the same point of time, we have UI UX designers coming out from Masai School as well. So, if I'll talk about only specifically them, I think the startups are, like as I was saying, that internet is the biggest platform, and at the same point of time, I think the first very important thing for anyone to basically start their own company or reach out to their audience is there are three, four ways where you can do that. One is web apps, and the desktop apps, mobile apps, and then there are PWAs as well, which is part of mobile apps only. So if you'll see the demand for full stack engineers and the demand for what we are seeing is the demand for full stack engineers as well as front end engineers alone, back end engineers, UI engineers. So the demand for them is on a very higher side, and at the same point of time, I think salary ranges start from somewhere around 5 LPA. It can go up to 30 LPA as well in some of the startups, those who are hiring. And as I was listening that whether people are open about hiring people, those who are not from engineering background, yes, we have around 65% of our students from non-computer science background, and that is what is happening right now. That anyone who has that like problem solving skills, know JavaScript, and wanted to basically start their career can basically enter into any of the field and can go, and the demand as well as the salary ranges, like there's a huge spectrum depending on your capabilities, problem solving skills. You can aim for those kind of jobs and you'll get what are jobs you were aiming for. So yeah, I hope I answered your question. So
Right. Thanks for that, Prateek.
yeah.
Sriram, an interesting question that we got. What are the opportunities for a professional with 25 years plus work ex who may not have technical skills, but who have project management skills? This is a question that we get often. What happens to these veterans in companies? Will they sort of be left out? What are the opportunities for them?
It's very interesting because there was a time when industry was growing at, let's say, 14-15%, and a lot of folks grew really fast and became generalists. Over time, uh, project management, delivery management, and so on and so forth. Now, a lot of those folks, when there was a little bit of a lull in hiring, got left behind, and companies that reinvested in folks like that with 15 to 20, 25 years of experience is to actually understand the domain, the domain that you're part of. Let's say if you're working for a company that is in the manufacturing domain or retail or consumer goods or whatever, you understand the domain and you pick up skills in agile methodologies, become a scrum master. So there is opportunity for you to actually become a scrum master or an agile coach, to help others run their project sprints on time, and do the iterations properly. So we do see options for folks who have at least 1.5 decades or 2 decades of experience, settling down in roles that give them an opportunity to mentor others as agile coaches or scrum masters and things like that.
Right.
If I may add to
Ritu,
that,
yes,
if
sure,
I may
sure.
add to
Yeah,
that,
of
I
course.
mean, it's a very important question also, because we often these days are getting this ourselves. I think just everything that Sriram said is like bang on. I think just to add to it, I think most of these professionals have to look beyond the IT organization or tech organization, because every organization today have realized that they have to become tech organization. So the basic underlying operating system, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in FMCG, retail, has to be tech driven, digital driven. These people, their project management skills actually can become extremely useful for these kind of organization which are beyond technology, because they lack the ability to connect business requirements to engineering. And hence I feel that I know that there is a comfort, and then there is a this is what one is used to. You've been working with tech organization or IT organization or services companies, but I think the world has dramatically opened up, and so has opportunities, and such resources actually should look at organization beyond IT, and I think they can be invaluable to such organizations.
Yeah, especially at a time when every organization is sort of going digital and trying to figure out the new normal. But Krishna, in your previous answer you made a very interesting point. You said the boom is not just in tech but across digital, and that anyone can sort of pick up these skills. So for people who do not currently have these skills, but they want to be part of this digital hiring boom, jobs boom, what would your advice be to them? What should the first 2 or 3 skills be that these people should have?
Sure. So, first of all, I want to just add to the previous question, because that's a very important question. And I think a lot of people write to me also asking that what can I do? The first reality check that I ask everyone, that you have 25 years of experience. Take you as someone with 15 years of experience. What are the additional skills you have acquired from 15 years of experience to 25 years of experience? If you can't identify tangible skills that have added in the last 10 years, then I think you need to really question yourself that what were you doing? If you learned what you learned in the first 15 years, and the additional learning in the next decade has not been incremental or something that you can very clearly articulate, then there's a real problem. I think that's the biggest challenge that we're talking about. See, the number of years of experience working on something where you are continuously learning, you'll always be in demand. Now, coming back to your current question on how can people learn and become valuable and become part of the current booming digital industry, is that it's very simple. I think we are living in a time where like learning, unlearning, and relearning is the only constant, right? As long as you're open that okay, I don't know, but I can learn. Like for example, I talked about data as the most common denominator. Any role that you are, be it a technical person or a project manager or a CEO or a sales guy, everybody has to make sense of the data, and that skill is not that difficult to learn. Everybody can become a data analyst. So whatever role you are, you can learn those skills. Like similarly, like learning scripting skills that a lot of tools this does require to program them is not a very difficult skill. You need not be a deep Java or a Python developer to do those things, right? You can easily learn. So as long as you're open to learn, there are a lot of opportunity where you can learn and grow and get into any demand. You need to just maybe like admit that okay, I have 25 years of experience in certain areas, but I want to learn and get started again. There are some common aspects like professionalism, ability to work in group, communication. Those skills are going to be very valuable, and those are the only skill in your 25 year of experience that I'll count as valuable skill. But when it comes to role a specific skill, you can always learn. It's not that difficult. But you need to accept that, okay, I'm starting from a scratch here, but I'll learn it. Like yeah, a good example is if you're a project management professional, you want to become a Scrum master. Definitely, it's no big deal. But you should be open to learn and master and accept that reality and start applying for role as if you're someone who has learned this skill recently, but has a lot of in general industry experience to work in teams and lead teams and so on.
That's a very good point, Krishna. So important to ask yourself, if you have 25 years of experience, what have you learned from 15 to 25? That's a very important point. And just a reminder to our viewers, all our guests are live with us. So if you have any questions, keep sending them in. We've already got 4 5 questions that they've answered, some very pertinent questions as well. So Prateek, let me take it to you. Just a segue from what Krishna mentioned, right? These skills are something that you can pick up. The first step is to acknowledge that you need these skills. So are you seeing interesting trends where people from completely unconnected industries now want to be part of software development, UI, UX, web app development? Are you seeing that happening? I remember this happened, I think, during the dot-com era where, school teachers would sort of go and join NIT and AppTech and, to kind of be part of the Y2K hiring boom. So perhaps you can tell us if you're seeing, completely different unconnected professionals who now want to be part of this.
Yes, so Chandra, I think Krishna was mentioning the right thing. I think first I want to basically add a couple of points over there that learning is a lifelong process, and that is something which people need to start realizing now, the importance of it. And also at the same point of time, I think apart from the core skills that you have, one thing which we all have realized after post-pandemic or like during this phase is that majority of the companies are going to remain as hybrid companies or will have open work from home options. And that's when the communication skills, the adaptability, the learnability, and other things plays a very, very important role apart from the core skill set that you have. And this is something which we are seeing in software development as well. So before that, we were just focusing on tech skills, but now I think the collaboration skills, the learnability part, and the communication skill also plays a very important role when you want to make a holistic developer coming out from Masai School. Now, when we talk about the different professions from which people are now becoming software developer, I think we have multiple stories which has come out from Masai School. So, like, be a Uber driver who was a who never done any formal education like beyond 12, getting into software engineering role in one of the startups in India, or you have someone who come from a BA background and now who have not done math after 10th class and then now entering into software developer, like entering into the domain and becoming a software developer. So we majorly focuses on junior developer or SD1 hiring. So you'll see typically most of the people, those who are changing their career trajectories, are not doing that great in their careers earlier. But there's a lot of different kind of horizons from where people are coming in and becoming a software developer. When we were talking about the experienced folks, at that point of time, we have seen a couple of MBA grads now becoming software developer and starting their career as a as a programmer. We have seen them as well, but I think programming is something which requires you to have problem solving skills, and I think that is what the core focus area is. And then you can learn any language and you can become a programmer. So there's no like barrier to entry into becoming a software developer, and it's thus you can enter if you have good problem solving skills, good logical capabilities. I think then you can become a software developer, which is needed in this digital revolution which is happening around us.
Right. Ritu, another point that I wanted to discuss with you is, the fact that a lot of these roles are remote. People are still working from home. Will this lead to an increase in female participation in the workforce? Women who may have taken a sabbatical, who have kind of dropped off the career ladder. Is this an opportunity for companies to kind of tap into this pool? Are they going after this pool? Because we are talking war for talent, but here you have a pool that is kind of untapped for many years.
So Allow me, Chandra, to before I respond to that question, I think given the nature of today's conversation, we're focusing a lot on the weather of the moment. We're talking about hot jobs, hot skills. But I think what's important and the thing that pandemic has taught us is that we have to make our careers COVID proof or accident proofs, right? There are different kinds of situations which are arising, and these economic accidents or social accidents are happening at a very steady pace, much frequent than it was happening in the past. And hence, if leaving aside the functional skills, if there are some I call it the survival skills when it comes to livelihood. If one has to build, and I think some of it has been covered in today's conversation. It will be digital literacy, it would be learnability, it would be agility and ability to handle ambiguity. Coding skills. Coding skills are no more just for engineers. Like everyone, I remember I was recently chatting with Yogi Sriram of L&T, and I said, "Sir, what's up?" And he said, "Ritu, I'm learning Python." And well, I mean, he
That's
is
amazing.
much elder to me as well. Fungibility, I think the ability to have skill set, the ability to move between different kinds of job roles, and of course, flexibility. You should be open to all forms of employment. Now, coming to your questions on women, I think COVID or the remote working space or the acceptance of remote working is has, of course, in the short run, had affected women. We also saw that where husband and wife were both working during the pandemic, and there were no help at home. You're managing kids. We have seen incidents and instances, and it's beyond anecdotal, where women have been the one who stepped out of the job market. However, we are already seeing organizations, whether it's in banking, whether it's in IT, whether it's in services sector, where they are encouraging and looking at women beyond territories, beyond even from far-flung places to come and join. The inherent challenges of commute is being done away with. The challenge of fixed hours have been done away with. The fact, and suddenly there is a level playing ground for women. And hence, I'm actually encouraging most women right now who had stepped out, took sabbaticals, or whatever reason, were out of the workplace. This is the perfect time to kind of make themselves relevant and come back, because there is openness across most sectors to hire them back.
That's
In fact, if I may add, there are companies that have launched in the last 1 year or so returnship programs, especially targeting their female employees to encourage them to come back if they had gone on a break for whatever reason. And the success of remote working, like Ritu said, 96% of your workforce is pretty much working from home for the last 1.5 years, right? And the customers who had apprehensions around data security and firewalls and things like that have now become very comfortable with remote working. And this whole emergence of gig workforce, the fact that it doesn't have to be an employee employer relationship, that you can have a gig and you have multiple models of engagement to engage workforce, whether it's female or male. That has allowed a lot more options and on the table.
Yeah. I also want to add one point, Chandra, here, though it's not related to this topic, is that I'm not sure you guys have noticed this data or not. In early 90s, our women participation in work was higher than what we had before the pandemic. Because that when we were counting that women participation, it was mostly the labor force. That women were forced to work because they didn't have an option. What we have seen, at least before the pandemic, was that women who can afford not to work because husband is working and they're not in a financial dire condition, they typically walk out of the work, right? And that's a pretty bad place to be, right? Like this whole 6 months maternity law that got passed out. My own data shows that 1 out of 10 women after the 6 months period they do return to work. Otherwise, they generally come, resign, and move on. So I think I'm not sure if the COVID it will change or not change, but in the current time, I think it has become even more problematic because schools are not open, your preschools are not open, so it's very difficult to manage for a woman, kids their schools, and in general work at the same time. It's indeed
Yeah,
difficult. Like how
actually, Ritu, that is an interesting point because even I read a story which said women are the one who have suffered the most. Working women are the ones who have
Yeah.
suffered the most because of pandemic because they have to manage everything. They have to manage work, home, children, as he said, schools have
Yes.
still not reopened. So again, would that be detrimental?
So one good thing that has happened is that there is a certain level of adjustment to the pandemic that has happened. So most apartments have come up with their own ways of allowing, let's say, support system to walk into your homes. The extremities or the shock, the initial shock of how to manage this entire ecosystem has definitely diminished. However, most companies are continuing with their policy. Most, I'm not saying everyone, of providing a hybrid option to employees in terms of a combination of come to work for a couple of days or the rest of the days you can work from home or remote working or completely remote working. And I think that's the opportunity that could come in handy for women at this point of time because there is definitely an appetite for employers to kind of get more women back into the workforce because the earlier apprehensions and challenges at both ends have diminished significantly. However, it is a fact, by the way, the first 6 to 7 months, there has been a lot of effect on women, urban women for sure, but the rural women actually took the brunt of it because most of rural India were engaged in informal work. And most women, by the way, I mean, women workforce participation in rural India is much higher than urban India. But most of these job roles were outbound and informal in nature, and we know what happened after that.
Right. We'll take a couple of audience questions. Shriram, if you can take this. What things do people from non-IT backgrounds struggle with generally when stepping afresh into coding and other IT skills? How can they overcome them?
And I think I'll go back to Krishna's point and Prateek's point. As long as you have good problem-solving skills, so those are the foundational building blocks of getting into IT. You need to have an analytical bent of mind, reasoning skills. These are the two basic skills that one needs. And obviously, you are going to work in a team, and even in a remote working model, you're still engaged in sharing work and delivering work with colleagues, either on Zoom or Meet or Teams. Um and the the reason that work is remote now has enhanced the need for communication because especially in the companies that we work with, you are directly working with customers. In some instances you need to have to communicate with customers across borders, so some level of adaptability to different cultures. But foundational is the fundamentals have to be strong. As long as you have the interest and you have the reasoning skills, everything is nothing is rocket science in IT. That's something that we all believe in.
Okay, I have a rather funny question. I think Ritu or Shriram can take this. Do you see work from home continuing for a large percentage of people in IT for a longer period, like for the next 5 to 10 years? This may help us plan our real estate investments. So, this is a question that we have from a viewer. Ritu,
No,
Shriram,
it's
who wants to give this a stab?
Shriram, you go first.
yeah. So see, at least for the next year, we don't see any major change. In fact, I see requests from governments to extend work from home till the end of next year for them to plan better traffic routes and whatnot. Um but eventually, the consensus, at least across companies, based on our conversations, is at least 30-35% of the workforce will continue to work from home, and there would be a need for the rest of the 70 or 65% to get back once things return to normal. But when that is at least a couple of years, at least till the end of next year, things may not change drastically. But
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot of office space coming up across cities. So
Ritu?
Yeah. So just, the thing is, yes, this has definitely become $1 million question. I remember, I'm not quoting, but one of the largest IT companies in the country, right in the middle of the first wave, had declared that for the next few years, or rather 75,
25 by
80% of their
25.
workforce,
Yeah.
yeah, will permanently work from home. But to be honest, the same organization, I have also heard about how desperate they are to get employees back to workplace, because I think organizations are struggling between making an economic decision versus the erosion of social capital right now. So the thing
Yeah.
is that while we have proven to ourselves that from a transaction perspective, remote working works, but we are the jury is out there on whether it can help you build a team, or have what happens to empathy, what happens to how you engage new onboardings. Is it
Yeah.
possible for people who are joining organization to permanently work from home and still feel the same level of purpose and energy like others? Is something that is a big and a very important consideration. So it's no more just a real estate decision. For them, the future growth of organization is dependent on it. And hence, while I think organization will invest in the ability to do remote working, but they will not permanently move to remote working. You will see that there will be an ecosystem or a workplace created, at least for teams to come and meet and engage and be with each other. And I feel like, if you ask me, I mean, I will go mad if I have to work remotely and feel the same level of energy with my team. So, but then, yes, I think as an infrastructure capability, yes, everyone will invest in it. But I'm not sure that you can still do away with all your real estates. I mean, you can
Right.
see reduced real estate, and but that's it. I guess that's what it
Okay.
is right now.
So, Chandra,
Right.
I just want to add here that
Sure. Sure.
if you really have good digital skills, you don't have to move. Your jobs will come where you are, and not only from India but from all across the world. So in future, companies are going to follow talent. Talent is not going to follow company. And we already see that we are living in that kind of environment. But 1:4 joining ratio already shows that.
Right. In fact, the
in
next
fact,
question. Yeah. 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 Go on.
no, one advantage that I was just going to add to that. So, what will not happen is, let's say, somebody who's in Cochin, right, to be asked to move to, let's say, Chennai, as long as the organization has some sort of a presence in that location, you don't move where you need to move. But there is, because it is within the facility, you still have options to accommodate people in the location that you are in. So if you are rigid about mobility, then it's okay. So you can pretty much be where you are and still be able to work for a large organization as long as they have presence there.
I want to also share just one data point between the global pay scale. So, other than Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area in US, the salaries of tech professionals in Bangalore is higher than any other city in US. Already, if you are hiring for, if you look at the top talent that most of the tech startup or the unicorns are hiring, in fact, there are to the extent that some of these companies that I know in my network, they started setting up their offices outside India just to tap talent, and they're tapping the talent at a cheaper rate than what they're getting in Bangalore.
Krishna, you must give us more on this. I mean, we'll call you separately for more information, but tell us about these companies. Where are they setting up bases
Everywhere. Like
to hire people? Because ultimately, India is the largest base for digital
So
talent.
I'll give an example. One of the tech companies in our space, one of the largest one, they just set up their AI and ML development center in London because they found London to have cheaper resources compared to Bangalore and easier to hire compared to Bangalore.
Wow. So,
We had our own office in Raleigh,
what is the going rate for an AI/ML professional in Bangalore now?
minimum 1 crore. That's the starting point.
Okay, and
Minimum.
how to learn AI/ML? My follow-up question, of course.
You can learn from Simplilearn.
Simplilearn, that's what you just enroll.
I knew that was coming. I walked right into that one. But I have a question from a viewer. It seems there is a huge demand this year for techies with less than 5 to 10 years of experience. Do you still see a similar market for the next 2 to 3 years? I think Prateek, Krishna, both of you can take this.
I mean,
Prateek,
till foreseeable future, I don't see the
Yeah.
demand going up. We're still early. See, when the IT services industry was growing up, people are asking the same question. But now it's a much broader phenomena, right? As I was telling you that there are new tech startup who are hiring. There are traditional companies who want to go more and more digital because their customers are spending more time digital and they are not able to hire talent. So a lot of business is flowing to IT services companies who are helping them go more and more digital. So this is going to be like a future. Now look at some other areas also. Let's look at cars, right? Would you call Tesla a mechanical device or a software device? When you look at what goes in building that car, it's more software than hardware. And this is a phenomenon that is happening across the industry. So we don't see any time in near future this demand going down. It's only going to go up from here. And this is a great
Right.
opportunity for India as a market. We have a lot of talent. We have a lot of people who know English speaking. We have a lot of people who learn maths in school. And this is a great future for us to learn this skill and become the talentful not only for India, but for the talentful for the entire world, and not let companies start thinking of going outside India to hire talent.
Correct.
right.
So I totally
Prateek,
agree over here, I think with Krishna. So um, I think this demand is going to be there. This is a decade for this demand, and it is at least a decade, and it is going to continue from there onwards. So I think it is not going anywhere, and people just need to start learning programming and start contributing into being a part of this digital revolution. So the demand is not going anywhere.
okay, that's good to know. Krishna, just a follow-up question for you. So, you also recently had a report on how upskilling as a trend is going up for, mid-level professionals. So, can you take us through some of the courses in demand in that category? Someone would say 5 to 10 years or 10 to 15 work X. What do they want to learn in the current environment, and what will really help them in
Yeah.
the current environment?
So, Chandra, again, I'm just emphasizing what I said earlier. See, every function, every industry has got impacted by these digital skills. So I'm not calling it IT, I'm calling it broader digital skills. So every role, every industry, every function has got impacted. So there are skills that you can acquire related to your work and how your previous work is getting impacted by these new technologies coming and impacting your work. So there's a lot of skilling opportunity across the land. But there are some few common, I'll say, common skills. So data is one such skill. That whatever role you are, you must know how to make sense of the data. If you're a developer and you want to become data scientist, then there's a different path. If you are a business guy and you want to make sense of data, you can take a data analyst program or a business analyst program, or there are some other variants available. So like that, there are everything is getting impacted, like project management getting big time impacted by a new methodology called Scrum, right? Because projects are no longer 6 months long; projects are becoming 6 weeks long. So that requires a different approach of doing those projects. Marketing has big time got impacted because now more companies are spending more dollar on online platform than what they are spending on TV and hoarding that they used to do in the past. So that has completely impacted marketing as a function. Finance as a function has also got impacted big time because you no longer you maintain and work only on Excel sheet. There are so many different tools and platforms that has come in on how to like do financial reporting or how to look at fraud and whatnot. All these skills also required is some level of cyber security understanding because when you're handling data, you need to be like cognizant of the fact that what is important and what is like confidential and so on. So I think this is a area that wherein the person has to understand what is their past experience, what is the additional skills that they can learn so that they can become valuable. You need not always reinvent, right? You can always find adjacent areas to get in, and that's where like platform like us do a good job. If you do an inquiry, somebody will try to understand your current profile and suggest something that might be suitable for you and continue to make you valuable.
Right.
Um,
Ritu and Shriram, this question is for both of you. So, this push for upskilling in companies, is it coming from the companies? Is it coming from the employees? Because, companies will find it cheaper to kind of hire freshers and, they follow the pyramid strategy. So, just want to know the thrust for fresh skills, does it have to come from the employees themselves? Or are companies also taking initiatives to upskill their existing talents, people who have been there for a long time?
Maybe Ritu, you can go first.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think first and foremost, let's unpack in which scenarios companies look to hiring freshers and which scenarios companies would like to invest in experience. It goes without saying that, without any doubt, that the fact that a company would like to invest in resources who've had the experience, who knows the organization well, is extremely well married to the values of the organization. And hence, if they are lacking in certain skills which can come in the way of their future progress, I think companies would much rather invest in these resources to kind of upskill them, so that they have the upside both in terms of the experience they bring to the table as well as the new skills that they are able to imbibe. Having said that, I think employees need to be cognizant of the fact that it's not something employers and organization need to do, or that it is an entitlement. If organizations are choosing to do, and I think many organizations are actively investing in upskilling their employees. However, I feel in the current scenario that need for upskilling need to stem and start with individuals, employees themselves. Because if employees do not realize the importance of skilling in today's environment, and if they feel that they have to do it just because the organization is paying for it, it's not going to work. So I think it's one thing which has been, which is, we're talking about I know a lot, but I think we have to remind ourselves that there are also many people who have experience in tech who are finding it difficult to continue with their employment, or are not getting jobs just because they've not been able, they have been complacent about upskilling themselves. So I think it doesn't matter whether you're in tech or non-tech. Lifelong learning, which has already been spoken about, is important. But one should realize themselves, I mean, the individuals themselves should realize the importance of it rather than depend on organizations as a course to follow.
Shriram?
Let me add. Totally agree with what Ritu said. It's about one, having that interest in staying relevant to what the organization wants and needs, and what the industry needs. So that's obviously the employee side. Staying relevant is very, very important. Showing the interest and eagerness to learn newer things when it's offered. But like Ritu said, organizations are also realizing that when they have large service lines, and some of them are uh, reducing in relevance in their own portfolio, right? Just testing is getting automated. Some parts of whatever they're doing today is getting automated. There is they feel there's a sense of responsibility to also upskill the folks that uh, went into work in those technologies, to give them an option to learn uh, the digital skills that are required for them to generate better value for themselves and for the organization. And that's something that we see as evident if you listen into these earnings transcripts of larger companies. They are investing heavily in reskilling. To go back to Ritu's point, there is a sense of loyalty, there is a sense of understanding of the value system of the organization. So you are much better positioned to learn a newer technology and contribute a lot quicker. Therefore, you have the advantage of getting reskilled or upskilled, and then you're able to at least have this correlation between my skill and pay, right? That therefore, one, that's an investment that the organization makes, but also the individual needs to commit to stay relevant.
Right. We have 5 more minutes to go, so I'm just going to get closing comments from all four of you. If you can give us two or three trends each on, hiring the top skills that you foresee for the next 1 or 2 years. Maybe Prateek can start, and we can go to the rest.
Chandra, could you please repeat your question? Hiring?
No, so the top skills that you see that will be in demand for the next 2, 3 years,
Got it.
or the top hiring trends that you anticipate for the next 2, 3 years.
Got it. So first one being software development. So that is something which is going to be going to remain as it is, and it is going to grow from here onwards. The second, I think UI, UX designers, they are going to be, because there are a lot of products which are going to come on internet in foreseeable future, and I think UI UX design is another very important thing. And the third one being data analytics is also an important skill set, because there's a lot of data which is going to come in, and then there's a lot of demand which is going to come in for people, those who are going to be make sense of data. So these are the three pick from my end, which is going to be here for a longer period of time.
Krishna?
Yeah. So I'll put five skills: full stack development, anything to do with the data, cloud, cybersecurity, and new way of managing project, which is Scrum. I see these five areas to be growing, and a lot of hiring. Hiring will continue to be as hot as it is today for the next few years for sure.
Sriram?
On top of whatever Krishna and Prateek said, which is the full stack and the cloud and cybersecurity and so on and so forth, what I'd like to add is what we call enterprise cloud apps, which is, let's say, Salesforce or Workday or ServiceNow, because a lot of these low-code platforms are also giving an option for people that don't know a lot of programming to actually be successful in building apps for their customers, as long as they have a reasonable business understanding. So we see upskilling demand coming up with Salesforce type, Salesforce, Adobe, ServiceNow. These are enterprise cloud apps that if you have an opportunity to learn, you should, because they are going at a premium in the market today.
Ritu?
I mean, the pace at which the world is changing is very difficult to forecast 3 years from now. But if one has to hazard a guess, I mean, I would still go back to the points that I mentioned. I think those are life skills that one should possess. But if I were to call out or add to the ones that have already been called out, I think design thinking, digital marketing, and I think the entire gamut of digital marketing, and I think cybersecurity. I think if I were to talk about one technical, I would say cybersecurity. But the other two, I think, will stay relevant for a very, very long time.
Yeah, the life skills that you mentioned. So my last question to all of you: what's the wildest hiring story or salary story that you have heard in the last 6 months? If you can share an example of a ridiculous hike or a ridiculous role that somebody has bagged just because of the environment that we are in.
So
Krishna,
Chandra,
you
I want to add a point here. See,
yeah.
we're talking a lot about like salaries being very high, and it is ridiculously high. Frankly, I don't agree. I disagree with that statement. See, why it is high? It's just a demand supply gap. Companies are not
I
complaining when their valuations are going up, right? So you can't be like taking like giving a lot of stakeholder return and talking about all kinds of valuation and saying that it is justified because it is forward multiple and whatnot. Then why complain about employee salary, right? So I see that it's a market, but I think in the current market it is high. At some point in time, it will catch up. If it doesn't catch up, it's still great, right? If people are making a lot of money, what's wrong in that? So it's a good place to be in. I don't think we should celebrate that. We should not complain about it. Is my view.
Oh, I'm not complaining, Krishna, but is there any anecdote that you would like to share apart from 1 crore for AIML in Bangalore?
I think the only other areas where we see that it's like almost impossible to hire this all analytics talent also. Right? The average shelf life is 6 months. That's another big area of concern, that not only the salaries are high, these people, it's very difficult to retain because they always get somebody else paying them higher and they move on. So I think that one area that I've seen a lot of companies that I know in my circle, including us, struggling.
Prateek?
Yeah, so I don't have a like from our like if this kind of example is going to be there, it is going to be created by our own students only. So, but yeah, I have seen one of our student who started his career at 6, and it's just been like a 1 year, and then he is already at 25, and then going at that pace. I don't think that he's going to stop at, he'll be probably 50 by next 1 or 2 years. So the way people
He has
wanted,
1 year
like
of work
really,
experience.
Yeah, he has only 1 year of experience. So,
My God, I feel
so
so good about my life.
no, so that's not actually bad, because the guy is super smart, and at the same point of time, I think companies are willing to pay that money. So I don't see it as a problem. Like what Krishna said, we keep on saying that the valuations are going up, and I think someone has to make money out of it. So, so techies are the first one making money.
Right. Ritu?
So, I'm not going to share with you any incident where somebody got a certain package, but there is a tweet which is going viral in Bangalore at this point of time. I'd share it with you, and it probably will explain everything. The similarity between Bangalore Uber drivers and engineers is that they both cancel offers in the last minute. So surge
Yeah.
pricing is definitely applicable and is at its peak at this point of time. So yeah, I guess that's what's on right now.
Shriram?
This is lower than the way companies are talking about their valuations. So valuation going 4-5 times in 6 months. At least salaries are not going 4-5 times.
See,
I agree.
so
Shriram?
so it's a bidding war, right? It's like an auction. It's like an IPL auction. So whoever is the highest bidder gets the talent, and I think that's at the end of the day, the talent wins in this particular instance. So the longer the gap between the time you start the first job search, by the time you end, you are at least in the current market, 5 to 6 offers is the norm. If you didn't have 5 to 6 offers, there's something wrong with you.
Okay, if you didn't have 5 to 6 offers,
I'll
there's something wrong with
I'll also add at the end that in spite of so much of craziness in the market, in spite of so much salaries going on, I think at the end of the day, candidates do value good role, good environment, good work culture when they accept the roles. It's not necessary that always they go for the highest job offered to them.
That is true. Which is why
Interesting.
we see that whole convergence between salaries between product companies and GCCs and services companies, because everybody is sort of looking at the same talent, and it's not just full stack anymore, it's full stack plus plus, right? So that the premium is associated with not just the technical skills that you have, it's your ability to communicate, it's your ability to deal with hybrid work teams and customers and so on and so forth. So that's what the premium is all about.
Right. On that note, thank you all very much for joining us on Money Control Masterclass. We've had some excellent insights on the current hiring boom, the skills in demand, the life skills that you need apart from technical skills, and how this is going to be a decadal trend. It's not going to go away this year or the next year, but it's start of a broader boom that we are going to see in the digital space. Thank you all for tuning in, and a big
Thank
thanks
you.
to all our speakers for sharing their insights with us. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.